monitoring.
2 minutes late here. We had to restart a server. Hi guys. WB to JPQ is the East Coast Reflector Tech Net number 675. 675 in 2 weeks will be 13 years, and I'm planning on trying to get all of the previous net controllers in here. Tonight, our Western New York meet and greet is June 20th, and the RSVPs are coming in. So if you're planning on coming to Western New York meet and greet, which is going to be held in Chestnut Ridge, New York, which is just south of the city of Buffalo, in Orchard Park, New York, the same town that the Buffalo Bills play in, just south of the city. Send Randy the RSVP, and we'll get you on a list, or let one of us know, and we can help you if you don't have all that information. But that is June 20th, and hope to see as many as possible. Tomorrow night is open mic night on the East Coast Reflector, open mic night at 8 o'clock. And on Thursday, in our Zoom room, the third Thursday of the month is Ask the Elmer. So come join us at 8 o'clock in our Zoom room, especially the newly licensed amateurs. Great information. Ask an Elmer, be an Elmer. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday in the East Coast Reflector Zoom room. Topic tonight, we can't talking about it in the Zoom room this afternoon, as a lot of questions come from the Zoom room. Do you read the instruction manuals on your equipment? I know we used this question a couple of years ago, but do you read the instruction manuals on your equipment? I know some of these newer menu-driven radios, you almost have to read it to manipulate, but I know I'm a poor one for reading manuals. When all else fails, then I go to the manual. It's a very, very bad habit, because we all should sit down and read the manuals before we start to use a piece of equipment. But we'll find out who does and who doesn't tonight. And I'm sure that, again, some of the menu-driven radios, you almost have to read the manual in order to find out how to operate. Our text line, of course, is open, 716-317-9050, 716-317-9050. And after we get through the new users to the net, the stations with questions, and I send it over to Roger for general check-ins. He will start with text check-ins. So you can get on the list now, and Vicki will get you in queue for after the questions. Let me send it up to Kevin, V3BZ in Victoria Harbour, Ontario, Canada. And it was nice to see you on the list, Kevin. I'm glad you're coming down again this year to the meet and greet. So what do you got for us tonight in our swap and shop, Kevin? Good evening.
Oh, good evening, Dick, Vicki, Roger, and everyone on the net. And yes, I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, this is Kevin, V3BZ, with tonight's swap and shop portion of the net. And I have, let's see, 4 listings tonight. The first one is from Greg, KE2VW in Holland, New York. Greg has a wooden spool of RG8X, believed to be 250 feet when new. He's only used about 15 to 20 feet of it. It weighs approximately 12.5 pounds, but based on its size and weight, it would be costly to ship. So he will bring it to the meet and greet in Western New York, unless it's sold before then. And he's asking $100. And you can call Greg at 716-537-0266. and his email is good on QRZ, and his call sign again is KE2VW. Listing number 2 is from Ken, KD2AHD in Sardinia, New York. Has two Bofang HTs for sale, the UV5RM model, asking $20 each. And you can call Ken at 716-496-3639. And I think he's also good on QRZ if you need his email. I better reset. Alright, listing number 3 is from Zach, KI6KQO in St. Cloud, Florida. Zach is selling the ICOM ID52A Plus handheld radio in excellent condition. It is from a non-smoking home. It includes the transceiver, the standard battery pack, the BP272, the ducky and belt clip, the USB cable, and basic manual and original box. Extras include an ICOM drop-in charger, the BC202IP3L, a wall-wart power, a wall-wart power cord, additional BP272 battery pack, and a BP307 large capacity battery pack. Photos are available upon request, and he's giving free shipping to the lower 48, and he's asking $675. And Zach is good on QRZ. Again, his call is KI6KQO. And our fourth and final listing for tonight is from Charles, KC6UFM. Charles is selling a Raspberry Pi 5, the 8-gig board. It's the board only. Brand new in the box. It's never been opened. Selling as is, asking $185, and that includes shipping to the lower 48. And PayPal only, please, for payment. And you can contact Charles by email. He is good on QRZ, KC6UFM, our resident antenna guru. All right, I guess that's it. If you have anything for sale, trade, or want, just go to eastcoastreflector.com. Click on Contact ECR and SwapNet submissions, or just email me at ve3bz@rogers.com. And to answer tonight's question, I rarely look at the manual unless I have to. I'm kind of like you, Dick. All right, back to net, VE3BZ.
A bookcase together, right, Kevin? You end up with a few extra parts. That's okay. Just go in the drawer, right? Hey, thank you. A lot of listings. That's some good stuff. So thank you. As far as I know, Charles is with us tonight, and he sent me a note here a couple of days ago. Maybe it was yesterday. He is going to talk about tuning antennas, especially dipoles. So I'll send it over to Kevin in a half a minute here. But if somebody has a subject that they would like to do a presentation on for a few minutes before the net, like the nets, like Charles does, please let me know, and we'll get you in queue, as they say, for another week. So anybody like to talk on any amateur radio subject for a few minutes at the top of the net, we welcome it. Just let me know, and we'll get you in here in the next few weeks. With that being said, over to you. Good evening, Charles. KC6UFM. This is WB2JPQ.
Yeah, good evening, Dick, and everyone on the Tech Net tonight, and many thanks to you and Roger, Dick, for herding the cats tonight, and for Vicky keeping everybody honest. As far as the question is concerned, to paraphrase the old movie, manuals, we don't need no stinking manuals. I'm kind of like you, Dick. I know that it's probably a good idea to read the manual, but I tend to just kind of take it out of the box, and, plug it in and turn it on and start playing with the knobs and the switches and the buttons and all that. Of course, today, you're playing with the touch screens and the sliders and all that kind of stuff, but I tend to not use manuals, and that's not a new, but I've always been that way, and it's also not strictly applicable to amateur radio. So kind of ticks my wife off now and again, but anyway, as far as the topic tonight is concerned, in tuning antennas, and the first thing is that box sitting next to your transceiver that probably says on the front of it antenna tuner does not tune the antenna. It just doesn't do that. That's not what it's designed to do, and it's not even possible for it to do it. That is an antenna matching unit, and it matches the antenna and the feed line, whatever impedance they happen to be, to your transceiver to keep your final amplifiers happy, to keep from getting so much reflected energy into them that it just cooks the transistors, or in some cases the tubes. I'm a big tube fan too, but that is not an antenna tuner, and it cannot actually tune an antenna. The only way to tune an antenna is to change its physical properties. The most common change is on the length of the radiating elements. There are other ways to change the physical properties to get a good match, but the one we use mostly is changing the length. Let me reset. And as I said, I was going to talk a little bit here about dipoles, because that is the simplest thing. And, there are many different kinds of dipoles. There's the simple dipole that is nothing more than a half wavelength of wire, and we're talking electrical length here, but a half wavelength of wire broken at the center and fed at that center point. We also have the so-called off-center fed dipoles, like the G5RV and things of that nature, where instead of being fed at the middle of that wavelength of wire, it's fed at some other point on the dipole. And then, of course, the extreme off-center fed dipole is the end-fed half wave. Instead of being fed at 50% from one end, it's fed at 0%. And, you can go anywhere in between those. And at some point, you will find a match. A lot of designs rely on that. But, we're just going to talk about a simple dipole because, as the name implies, it's the simplest thing to do. Again, a dipole is nothing more than a half wavelength electrical wavelength of wire fed at the center where it's been broken and the two lines feed there. That antenna, when it's cut to a certain length, is resonant at exactly one frequency. Sometimes you can move away from that frequency a little bit and still get by with it, but it changes pretty quickly as you move away from your design frequency. But to change that, all you have to do is either lengthen or shorten the wire. If the antenna is resonating a little too high in frequency, you add a little bit of wire to it. You make it electric and longer. That will bring down that point of resonance. Inversely, if it's resonating at a lower frequency than what you want, you cut off a little bit of wire, and it will then resonate at a higher frequency. And you can kind of shuffle that back and forth. The key word here when you're doing this, when you're trimming that dipole and making those adjustments, is baby steps. Don't go out there and just hack off 3 feet of wire. Odds are you're going to take off too much. But, take little increments. And yes, it's tedious, but trust me, it's easier to cut off a little more than it is to try and add it back. The other thing to keep in mind is whatever you do to that dipole has to be done on both legs. So, if you add 3 inches of wire to one side, you need to add 3 inches of wire to the other side. Reset.
2, sign out, clear.
Okay, a little bit of chunking there, but in any event, do the same thing to both sides of the dipole. Because stop and think about it for a minute, folks. If you add 3 inches of wire to one leg, but not to the other, you no longer have a center-fed dipole. It's now being fed off-center. And you have a whole new can of worms there being opened up that are going to drive you crazy at some point. So do the same thing to both sides, and you'll be fine. And like I say, just remember, if you're resonating too high in frequency, then add a little bit of wire. If you're resonating too low, then take off a little bit of wire. And you'll get there, but it can be a tedious process. But, some people are saying, well, I don't work HF. I don't use a dipole. Yeah, you kind of do. If you have a quarter wave antenna, ground plane up in the air, if you have a quarter wave antenna on top of your car, or even a half wave or a 5/8 wave or what have you, that is actually a dipole. It's just that the other half of the dipole is either the ground or the body of your car. So you're working with a dipole. And again, the only way to change that is to change it physically somehow. And don't think that an antenna tuner is doing something magic, because it's not. The antenna tuning units that everybody sells and most people have on HF, they don't do anything to actually tune the antenna. They just make your transmitter happy. On VHF and UHF tuners, unless you're into extreme weak signal work and that sort of thing, tuners usually aren't needed, because quite often the antenna will cover the entire band. It might be a little high on each end, but SWR-wise, but it will cover the entire band. Reset. So you don't really get into too much of this on the VHF and the higher frequencies, but there are some special situations where you might. But if you're, let's say you're a technician, you're thinking, I don't do anything but VHF and UHF. Alrighty. Well, remember, you have a good chunk of 10 meters where you can work digital, you can work CW, you can work single sideband. You also have all of 6 meters. And on both those bands, odds are you're going to need to tune your antenna to get good coverage across the band. So these things are important, and trust me, a dipole works phenomenally well on 6 meters. So, they work remarkably well on 2 meters for that matter. But, keep in mind that, you're a technician. This is something that you might be interested in knowing, because 10 meters and 6 meters can be a lot of fun, and don't write them off. And you have the same privileges as an extra on the 6 meter band, and you've got great privileges on 10 meters. So, and the other part is just kind of a little gentle nudge here on you have some CW privilege on an HF as well. So grab that key and get at it. So back over to you, Dick. Again, thank you, everyone. I'll be around here for the Q&A session. Everyone take care. This is KC6 UFM, back to net control.
There we go. Get rid of Conroe, Texas off of there, and we can maybe use the system. K5YNU is keying up. Thanks, Charles. Always good information. I love that antenna tuner. I said this before. You know that, Charles. Years back, they were not known as antenna tuners. They were known as Johnson made them, but they were known as matchboxes. Somehow along the line we got out of boxes and into antenna tuners. I don't know how that ever happened, but certainly was a mislabel. All right. Let's see if we have, or how many we have. Hopefully we'll have some new users to this net. If you've never checked into this net before, give me your call sign twice and we'll get you up at the top of the list and let you say hello. So if you've never checked into this net before, give me your call sign. Vicki will get you on the log. If you have checked in, we'll tell you whether you have or not. So don't worry about it. So if you think you've never checked in, give us your call sign. We'll get you at the top of the list.
Kilo Romeo 4 Kilo X-Ray Sierra, Kilo Romeo 4 Kilo X-Ray Sierra, Jesus from Orlando.
And I've been on Echolink a little bit on and off. I've had a license since somewhere in the 70s. But anyway, I'm back to net. Over.
Kilo Bravo 2, Romeo Hotel, November. Kilo Bravo 2, Romeo Hotel, November. Jim in New Jersey.
Kilo 7, Bravo, Golf, Bravo, Bill, Connecticut. Kilo 7, Golf, Bravo, Bill in Connecticut. Well, that's a good start. Good evening to Bill in Connecticut, K7BGB. Got James in Egg Harbor City, New Jersey, KB2RHN. We got James, I think that was on Echolink, AA1FR, and KR4KS. All four of these have never been on this net before, so let me send it to Orlando, Florida, KR4KXS. Good evening to you, and our question for everybody tonight, you read the instruction manuals on your equipment. Good evening.
Good evening, Net. No, usually no. I prefer to explore internet and YouTube channels to find a graphic way to see what I'm going to do. Back to you.
There you go. We always got YouTube, right? Hey, thanks for being with us. Are you right downtown Orlando?
I
I believe if the repeat antenna is in downtown, I am about 20 miles south from the antenna, nearby the international airport. By the airport, yep. The repeater is located downtown, you're right, basically at I-4 and the 408. I-4 and the 408 right downtown. Well, thank you for being with us tonight. Let's go to James, AA1FR. Good evening, James. And what about you? Are you one to read the instruction manual on your equipment?
I tuned in towards the end, and if I forget to say it, I really like the conversation about the antenna tuner. That always bothered me. When I got my first license back in around 1975 or 78, I forgot, and I can't even find it. But I'm not the license. I can't find what I was listed. Anyway, what was I saying? What I learned was it was called a transmatch. That's how it was called in the ARRL handbook and stuff, I believe. And I built a transmatch with some extra coils and capacitor and connected it to my Johnson Viking 2 transmitter, which I had at the time, not knowing that that transmitter could tune into anything anyway. But I built a little transmatch for it on a piece of wood, and that's what I called it, was a transmatch. And yes, an antenna tuner always bothers me. So I like that conversation. And yes, I will read the manual. Actually, I'll read the whole thing all the way through. Not maybe before I use it. I'd like to have something that's user-friendly. And before I forget, I've known some blind hands. They want to buy a new piece of equipment. Everything's touch screen now. And there's very rare stuff out there that you can use as a blind ham now. So anyway, just something to talk about. AA1FR, back to net.
Good subjects, James. Thanks for bringing all 3 or 4 of those up. And yep, breadboarding a transmatch, yeah, I think you're right. I think that was written up many times in ARRL antenna manual and so forth over the years. But if you remember, you mentioned Johnson equipment. Remember that I said earlier, remember the Johnson Matchbox. That was they made 2 versions. They made the low power one, I don't know whether it was a couple hundred watts, and then they made the kilowatt one. And it was always, to me, named properly. It was a matchbox, and then somewhere over the years, the manufacturers changed the word matchbox, or the words matchbox to antenna tuner. And we all know that it does not, like Charles said, it does not tune your antenna. Let's go to Egg Harbor City, New Jersey, wherever that might be. Good evening, James. KB2RHN.
Good evening, sir. Good evening to everybody on the net. You can call me Jim in Egg Harbor City, which is 15 miles north of Atlantic City, a little town called Germania. That's exactly where I'm at. The mailing address is Egg Harbor City, but I'm actually in Germania, New Jersey. And I do not read the manuals. Usually I go through the radio, and if I come to a spot where I have a problem, then I will look up the manual. Usually I do not. And thank you for allowing me to participate in the net. And I didn't hear the intro, so I'm not sure what else you were asking there. But for some reason, I got knocked out, and I came back in, and I caught you calling for new check-ins. Back to you, sir. KB2RHN, Jim in Jersey.
Thanks, Jim. Vicky changed the name from James to Jim, so you will be known as Jim from now on our log sheet. So, you got it. We have a general question for you're new. We have a general question that we ask everybody, and that's what you answered. As soon as we get done with the new users to the net stations with amateur radio related questions, hopefully we can get some answers tonight for those that are looking for answers. And then we'll go to general check-ins. So we go on here for several hours tonight, Jim. Thanks for being with us. K7 BGB, Bill, good evening to you.
Good evening to the net, and hopefully everybody's having a good evening. I appreciate it. First time on the net, and really conversations, learning a ton. New ham about a year ago, so I got my tech in general last year, and loving the hobby, but so much to learn. So specific to the question, the only time I read the manual is when I get a new radio and I reference the manual for setup, and then I quickly go to YouTube and try to find a video that is helpful from that point forward, and I don't crack open the manual again after that. I think YouTube's just been a great resource for this new ham. Anyway, so that's my story with the manuals, and back to net control, K7 BGB.
Well, thank you, Bill. I think it's going to be interesting tonight to see these comments. A lot of good comments on reading the manuals, yes and no, and YouTube and other social media platforms. All right, who else do I have tonight that's new to this net? If you've never checked into this net, how about giving me your call sign? We'll get you up here and let you say hello. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
This Kilo Oscar 4, Mike Lima Yankee.
Real here in Sumter County, over.
M5 Oscar Zulu Golf Mobile. M5 OZG Mobile.
Let me hold it up here a second. We got Joe, N50ZG. And Joe, we show that you have been in to this net before, so going to ask you to come back during general check-ins or back with a question if you have one. And also Andy in Gainesville, Florida, KO4MYL. We show that you have been in here as well, Andy, so I'd like to ask you to come back as well. There was another station that was coming in from Central Florida. I didn't catch exactly where. Who else would like to get in here and that's never checked into this net? There was a couple of, there was one other call sign there anyway, but anyone else like to get in and say hello? If you've never been into this net before, please give us your call sign twice.
This is Kilo Golf 4, Lima Echo Oscar, KG4LEO, Gabriel, Sumter County, over.
The one Gabriel is looking for in the villages there, KG4LEO. Unfortunately, you have been in here once before as well, so I have to ask you to be fair to everybody else, I have to ask you to stand by and come in during our general check-in. All right, last call for new stations to this net. If you like to get in at the top of the list, if you've never or don't think you've been in here before, give me your call sign, and we'll get you up at the top here.
KC6WSJ.
Well, KC6WSJ from California. Good evening to you. We got you down as Thomas, and I think we also got a KJ5. We'll get to you and we'll fix your call sign in just a minute to KJ5. So, KC6WSJ, good evening, Thomas. Welcome.
Thank you for checking me in. Very interesting antenna information. Always enjoy that kind of stuff. And we're near Morro Bay, California. Good to hear you all this evening. And thanks for checking me in. KC6WSJ, San Luis Obispo County.
our logger FCC database comes up with Thomas. Do you go by Tom, or should we leave Thomas in there for you?
Oh, you can call me Tom or Louie or just about anything. Good to hear you guys. Thanks again. KC6WSJ.
Thanks, Louie. Thanks for stopping by. We got you. The geese swallowed me now. She put Louie in the log. We'll go with Tom. We'll stick with Tom. Thanks for being there. The KJ5, there was a KJ5. Go ahead, sir.
Kilo Juliet 5. Juliet X-ray Victor.
Like Christopher, KJ5JXC, and Chris, it does look like you've been in here before too, so I'm going to have to ask you to call in during...
Oh, now you show up, Ron. K9BYU.
All right, let's go to, it's what, 38 past the hour. This is Dick WB2JPQ. Let's go to stations with amateur radio-related questions. If you've got an amateur radio-related question, we'll try to get an answer for you, so give us your call sign twice, please, and we'll see what we can do.
November Alpha 4, Bravo Papa.
Well, there's Bill in Leesburg, Florida, going to start us out tonight. Good evening, Bill. NA4BP. Looks like you have never been on this net before either. You don't come up with, we don't show you, you're not new to the East Coast Reflector, but new to the net, so welcome. We got a question for you, which you've probably heard. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? And what is your question for us tonight, Bill? Good evening.
I'm not in Leesburg, Florida right now. I'm on vacation in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Coming in DMR through a repeater here in Myrtle Beach. I try to read the manual. I read until I fall asleep, and usually it doesn't take that long to fall asleep, but usually every time I encounter a problem, I'll go back and dig through the manual and try to figure out exactly what the problem is. Yeah, the manuals have a lot of good information in them, and it's just hard just sitting down and reading them. You know, to solve a problem, that's fun. Let me key up again. Okay, the problem, the question I have two homes, one in Florida, where I use a dipole, and one in Virginia, where I put in a random length end-fed antenna. It's 71 feet long. There's 71 feet of wire going to a 9-1 bulb, which actually seems to work pretty well. The problem is because I use a couple different antennas there, I have 50 foot of, actually 40 foot of coax, which I run from the radio to the antenna. Now, I found that when I take that coax and lay it out on the ground and use that random length antenna, it works a lot better than if I keep it all rolled up in a box. What would be the secret to making it work better all the time? This is NA4BP.
Well, that's a great question, Bill, and I know Charles has got the answer for you. Yeah. Charles, go ahead. And good evening again.
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, Bill, what's happening there? If you recall when I was talking about the tuning an antenna, I mentioned that even if you have a quarter wave vertical stuck on top of your car, you still have a dipole. It's just your car body is the other half of the dipole. Well, it's a similar thing happening with your end-fed wire, and that is that the coax, particularly the shield of the coax, is acting as the other half of that dipole. And when you stretch it out on the ground, it has a nice long run, relatively straight, and it is a mirror image of your end-fed wire. But when you coil it up, it is electrically much, much, much shorter. And the way to fix that is to, number one, get yourself a good choke, a common mode choke. Put that in right at the feed point, and then on the antenna side of the common mode choke, pick up some wire there and lay yourself out a radial. One wire will work. More is better. And if you lay those radial wires on top of the ground, or yet bury them not more than 6 inches, just enough to where you don't run over them with a lawnmower or something like that, the length is not real critical. You don't have to measure out, a quarter wave or anything like that. Longer is better, don't get me wrong, but you don't have to measure it out real precisely or anything. What will happen then is those radial wires that you put in will then act as the other half of your dipole. And that choke will decouple the common mode from your coax and keep that nasty RF out of your shack. You'll find it will work much better, much more consistently, and I think you'll be much happier with it that way, Bill. So back over to you, Dick, KC6 UFM, back to that control.
Charles and Bill, was that maybe not the answer you're looking for, but at least there is your answer. Good evening again. Yeah, Bill, that was your answer. NA for BP. Go ahead, Bill.
Sir, I was considering doing the same thing, and I wasn't sure. I mean, the dipole that I have in Florida is, I think I have 10 radials. They're about 18 feet long, and they work wonderfully. But I don't have any radials at all up in the mountains where the Southern Danny is in Blue Ridge Parkway. I'll give that a try. Thank you very much. This is Penny 4BP. Thanks again. 73.
Yep, you probably answered your own question. Works in Florida and doesn't hit the other place. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for joining us tonight. Who else do I have? Stations with amateur radio-related questions. This is Dick, WB2JPQ. Call thanks twice.
We go 3 Lima Bravo.
Kilo X-Ray Sierra, Kilo Romeo for Kilo X-Ray Sierra. Question.
KR4 KXS is back with us again for a second question. And was that VE3LB Lima Bravo, or are we missing something there? Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is Franco 3 Lima Bravo. I just joined NET, and I'm located in near Toronto, and I'm just trying to understand what's the content of this NET. It's just, my name is Eugene, and I'm Victor Echo 3 Lima Bravo.
All right, we got you down as Gene in here. What are you trying to understand? What this is? This is the East Coast Reflector Tech Net. Been going on for 13 years. We've been here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock for 13 years. Was that your question, Gene?
Yeah, exactly. That is my question. Well, the only thing, just which subjects you are discussing currently? Was that any interesting questions or something else which is something I can contribute as well? This is Victor at Rudy Bravo.
Related questions right now. If you'd like to come in and just comment on our question tonight, which is, do you read the instruction manuals on your equipment? We'll be doing this a little bit later. So if you would stand by, please. KR4KXS came back with us. And what's your question tonight?
I just got over a month ago an HF radio, and I do have an end-fed antenna. And my problem with the end-fed antenna, because I only can do 10 meters at the moment, when I push the dog and I talk, trying to make contact, the computer's audio gets frozen, and my wife's hair dryer starts to clip like a crazy. The hair dryer has a little, like a transformer in the beginning of the power cord connected to the wall. So that little box starts to clip like crazy every time. So I read and I watch a lot of videos with information about this, and of course it's a radio frequency inside of the house. And they recommend a line isolator, which I do have one right now. And at the beginning of the antenna itself, to put a couple chokes, and I have an amount of 9 chokes. But the problem is still, the only thing right now is the hair dryer and the audio in the computers. Laptops are not affected. Any other lights inside the house are not affected, just the computers and the hair dryer or the wires. Any solutions besides the chokes, the counterpoise also. I do have a counterpoise, but the problem is still, I try it with a power bank, connecting the power supply and the radio to a power bank to isolate and disconnect the power supply from the house power, and the problem is still, so should be something related to the radio frequency.
Great question. We've had that on and off over the years with hair dryers and things that plug into a ground fault interrupter plug. Could be several things. I'll send it over to Charles, and most of the time it's RF, but we have seen where it's where it does cause problems with some of the ground fault interrupters. But let me see, Charles, what do you think about that? Sounds like high viswire?
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, that's just what I was going to say, Dick. And Jesus, I don't know if you have checked your SWR on your antenna, but check that. Make sure it's not crazy out of control. But also make sure that you have a good, solid RF ground. I'm assuming that you have a choke in place at the antenna feed line, or antenna feed point, excuse me, to choke off any common mode currents. But make sure you have one in place. Make sure you have a good, solid RF ground, which is very different from your electrical safety ground. You can do a little bit of research and see what the difference there is. But make sure that both of them are in good shape and working. But on the other hand, as Dick has said, quite often you will see even very low amounts of RF that will do crazy things to some of the cheaper ground fault interrupters out there. And it seems like, a lot of new construction and a lot of electricians are buying the cheap ones now to save money. They spend $3 on it and then charge you $185 for the part. But that is a distinct possibility as well, especially if you've got a good common mode choke and a good RF ground. Back over to you, Dick. KC6UFM, back to net control.
Thank you, Charles. Do you know, Jesus, what your viswire is? Is your SWR good?
Yes, well, the radio has an auto tuner, which I tuned right before I start to try to make contacts, and usually goes from 1.5 to 2.0. That's the only thing that I notice every time. Over.
Would you repeat, what did you say the viswire was? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. The SWR usually is between 1.5 to 2.0. Over.
Not that bad. I guess I could do the suggestions that Charles said, but in other occasions in here over the years, people have come back and said that they have bought a better outlet. Like Charles says, maybe your contractor or whatever put the $1.99 special in, and you need to go with the $20 one. It might get rid of your problem. Just a suggestion. You might want to try that.
Sir, I will check and see how can I fix this little issue. It's not that much of the issue because the hair dryer, sometimes I just unplug it and it doesn't bother me anymore. Over.
The monitor, that's another issue. I would think that would be RF on the monitor in your shack. So you might try throwing some Polaroids on the computer cable and even the AC. Well, thanks for your question. Why don't you try a couple of those suggestions and come back next week and give us a report and tell us what you found, and we can all learn. Who else do I have? Stations with amateur radio related question. 57 past the hour. This is Dick WB2JPQ.
This is Felix Rico through your email, Bravo. I have a question.
Go ahead, Gene. VE3LB.
Well,
question is, there's some antennas called a magnetic loop. Why it is magnetic? You know, like, because I know that when it comes to the antennas, fields like electrical and magnetic fields, they're alternating, and that's why the radio waves are propagating. What is special about the magnetic loop, and why it's called magnetic, and what is magnetic there, over?
Question, Gene. Let me send that over to Charles as well. He's getting a workout here tonight. Charles, go ahead.
Thank you, Dick. I'll fill out the form for the overtime pay later. But Gene, magnetic loops are called magnetic loops because they are in effect a transformer. You have a small loop, sometimes a coil, that is the primary side of a transformer that connects to your transceiver. You then have a electrically isolated loop that forms the secondary and is the actual radiating part of the antenna. So they are magnetically coupled, just like any other transformer is, and that's where the name came from. The thing to remember about magnetic loop antennas is that they are very narrow-banded. To test the tuning capacitor on the antenna pretty much with every few hundred hertz that you move to keep your match good. But they do work pretty well, especially if you have very limited space, because they tend to be extremely small. In fact, you can build a version for 160 meters that will fit on a 4-foot square sheet of plywood. So they are very small. They do have efficiency issues, but they work, and that's the key thing there. The other, since you're asking about them, I'm sure you already know this, but they are very expensive to buy, and that's mostly in the price of the tuning capacitor. So, but that's why they are called magnetic, Gene. Back over to you, Dick. KC6 UFA, back to net control.
Let me get that noisy hub off of there at K7TUS. Well, thank you, Charles. And Gene, I think that Charles answered your question pretty well.
Thank you so much. Well, now it makes sense, because basically there are two loops. One loop is radiates, the second one is like a primary side of the transformer, and somehow we got this magnetic energy transfer between them. It's quite interesting. I just came from Dayton, and I have a plan to build this antenna, and I bought a capacitor, which is 500 picofarad at 15,000 volts. It's a vacuum capacitor, and I'm really thinking about building the magnetic loop for 40 and 80 meters. And thanks a lot. I really appreciate the answer to my question. And back to Ness, this is V3OT.
Great. Glad you stopped by tonight. Glad Charles was here to answer your question. All right, 150 or 901 here on the East Coast. Anybody else with an amateur radio related question tonight? Call signs twice, please.
Alpha Bravo 6, Mike Bravo.
Good evening to Jeff in Union City, California, AB6MB. Good evening, Jeff. And you probably heard our question tonight. Read the instruction manuals on your equipment, and we'll take a question from you as well.
The instruction manuals, not so much. just what I need to know to kind of get started, and I just kind of go back to it as needed, as I would say. I just have a request. I have an antenna net every Friday night at 7 p.m. on the Papa system in Los Angeles. Is it all right if I tell people how to get there? AB 6MB.
You kind of just did that. We don't usually advertise other nets on here. It's like going into a Ford dealer and putting up Chevy signs in the office. I'm sure they can find out about it if they will, or if they would like. All right, who else? I'll take one more amateur radio related question. Stations with an amateur radio related question.
Hello, Oscar 6, Mike.
We heard the Kilo Oscar 6, Mike and Bo. Sound like you blew up, or that battery didn't sound like a battery. You went off too abrupt. You want to try it again?
Mike, November.
Well, KO6 MMN, Ed. Good evening. Ed, KO6 MMN. This issue last week as well at KO6 MMN. Go ahead. What's going on? I think you've done that for at least a week, maybe even 2 weeks. Ed, you got something going on there, or Don's got something going on with the repeater. I'm sorry, but we don't hear you. I'll take one more question. 5 past the hour here. One more amateur radio related question, and then I'll send it over to Roger for general check-ins. And like I said earlier, he's going to start with text check-ins. So if you want to get on the list via the text, 716-317-9050, text your call sign only. One more station with an amateur radio related question.
This is Kilo Oscar. For Whiskey Oscar. I'm a brand new ham operator. I got a Asus 991 Alpha, and I was wondering if anybody could refer a good remote software to use, so I don't have to sit at the ham station. I can do it remote.
Sorry, sir. KJ something, probably a 5 because you're coming in from Texas. You're just too noisy. Understand you're a brand new ham and something about a 991 Alpha. Is there something you can do to raise your power, get a little bit better signal into the the South Coast, the repeater there on the South Coast reflector?
Should I raise the...
If you got more power, certainly raise it.
M0 MSS.
hang on one second. I think that was Stephen, KJ5MWO. Did you raise your power?
Roger, I raised it from 45 watts.
Pretty noisy. Maybe Ross has a comment for you. Maybe he understood you a little bit better, but you're just not readable here for this net. Go ahead, Ross. Did you hear what he said?
Yeah, I think I caught it. He's got a 991 Yaesu. He'll be able to operate it remotely. So if you Google remote hams, there is some software where people hook up to their radios that let them share their radios with others, or they let them remote into their own radios. So if you Google remote hams, there is software out there that will let you do that, and there is a phone app that will let you talk on your radio once you get it hooked up. So just try Googling remote hams, and that might fix you up. With this.
Thanks, Ross. I heard what he said well enough. Did that, Stephen? I know you're noisy, but hopefully that was your question, and that's the answer that you're looking for. Go ahead.
Yeah, that answered my question. Appreciate it. I'll work with local club on seeing about increasing my power.
It was a little better, but sure. Yep, get your power up a little bit more. I think you said you're running some power, so check. Charlie's got a lot of repeaters there in that area, so maybe there's a closer one to you that you don't know about. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Ross, for your comment there. Thanks to you, Charles. Thanks to everybody for their questions and comments here tonight. Thank you, Vicki, for logging here tonight. As always, I'm going to send it over to Roger, KO4QMM. He's going to start with a bunch of text check-ins that we got and ask everybody his general questions tonight, and we'll come up with a definitive answer whether amateurs read the instruction manuals or not. Good evening, Roger. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Thanks, Dick. Vicky for logging, K8VKY. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's East Coast Reflector Tuesday Night Tech Net. I will be your net controller for the rest of the evening, KO4QMM. My name's Roger in Central Florida, little town Umatilla. And as always, we'll take the first 10 check-ins that we got, text check-ins. And there's some scragglers down there. We'll add you in with the general check-ins after I get done with these. And our question this evening is, do you read instruction manuals for your equipment? And I got to say, yes, I do, especially for the last radio I did. I even got highlighted stuff in there. One of the first things is putting my call sign in, and that was, I had to go straight to the book. And a little YouTube at that. So stand by here, and I'll give you the text check-in list. All right, bottom up, text check-in list. W2AJR, Andy, Cheektowaga, New York. KQ4YYN, Joe, Franklin, Georgia. KR4, CQD, Douglas, Wilton Manors, Florida. K6AAN, Mike, Valley Springs, California. K9, BBY, Joshua, Brownsville, Texas. W2SAL, Sal, Cheektowaga, New York. KB2UDB, Mike, Sebring, Florida. K8, BYU, Roy, Blaisdell, New York. KK4SED, Les, Claremont, Florida. And KD2JPP, Bob, Gallatin, Tennessee. Top of the list. Good evening, Bob. And do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? KD2JPP. You there, Bob? That's not like him. All right, let's move on to Les. Claremont, Florida, KK4SED. Good evening, Les.
79 degrees here in Claremont. Yes, I do read the manuals for whatever I get. And then if I run into a problem, I go to Old Faithful YouTube. So I'll get it working one way or the other. KK4SED, back to net.
Thanks for joining us, Les. Have a great evening. K8BYU, Roy, Blaisdell, New York. Good evening, Roy. We'll come back to you there, Roy. Mike, Sebring, Florida, KB2UDB. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Roger, Dick, Vicky, and everybody else on the net. Yes, I start out reading it, then get the basics, and then after that, if I want to get further in depth, I go to YouTube. Thanks for doing that. Pick me up tonight there, Roger. KB2UDB, back to net.
Thanks for being there, Mike. Have a great evening. Sal, Cheektowaga, New York, W2SAL, one of our team members here at the W2ECR. Good evening, Al, or Sal.
Good evening, Roger, and the rest of the crew out there and those in Zoom land. I do the manual, but I actually start at the back and see what the last picture is. Then I get a better concept as to what I got to do. So with that, I'll send it back to net control. W2SAL. Everyone have a great evening. It's a balmy 76 degrees here in Buffalo, New York.
That explains it, Sal. You have a great evening. Thanks for joining in. Joshua, Brownsville, Texas, KX9BBY. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? Over.
Good evening, Roger. Good evening, everybody. KX9BBY. The name is Josue, but if you want to write me down as a nickname, Josh, I don't mind. I think it's easier. And I do read the manuals. I like to read the manuals, but I also rely heavily on videos and now GPT to understand better like programming and such, you know. But I do like to read the manuals. Yes, sir. Back to net control. Good evening.
Thanks, Josh. That does make it a little bit easier. And you're from Brownstown, Texas. Thanks for joining us tonight. Mike, Valley Springs, California, K6AAN. Good evening, Mike. Getting a few in and outs tonight. KR4CQD, Douglas, Wilton Manors, Florida. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? Over.
There's traffic. That's fantastic. Hello, folks, and glad to be on this net. This is actually my first time on this particular net. On the manual, I have perhaps an extreme bias because I've spent, all my career in IT security. So I have to basically be an expert on new equipment or new applications when they come in. So I just have had to get in the habit of reading manuals even before the product shows up. So that, to me, just kind of carries over to the radio stuff. it's not that I necessarily need to know the item inside and out, but I definitely get a flow, with the device from the manual. So, yes, I do read them. Back to net, KR4CQD.
Yeah, I went back and forth quite a bit on my manual for the frequency width and stuff on all the frequencies, and every one of them you change, you got to make sure it's what you want. So thanks for getting in there. Have a great evening. Joe, Franklin, Georgia, KQ4YYN. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening, sir. KQ4YYN. Hey, thank you for hosting this portion of the net. I read the manuals. They're there for a reason. Do I read it line by line? No. But if I have trouble, if something is not going right, I'll refer back to it. I read it to just get an overview, and I reckon that's all I've got right there. Yeah, the manual is there for a reason, like I tell my wife. I asked her, did you read the manual? So anyway, yes, sir, I do, and my wife got to where she does too. And I just wanted to thank, I forget the guy's call sign, but the man talking about the antennas earlier in the first part of the hour, I really enjoyed his presentations, and I'm going to have to start listening a lot more because I've got to do some antenna work. I want to do some antenna work. Anyway, back to you, sir. This is KQ4YYN, Joe in Georgia.
Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it. And that was Charles, Kilo Charlie 6, Uniform Foxtrot Mike. And if you check out EastCoastReflector.com, you'll see him in the magazine and stuff in there. He does a lot of antenna stuff. And, yep, he's a whiz at it. Thanks for joining us. And bottom of the list, Andy, Cheektowaga, Newark, W2AJR. Good evening, Andy. W2AJR, you there? Another one off the list. All right, this is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida, and you are listening to the Tuesday Night Tech Net here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. And the question tonight is, do you read instruction manuals for your equipment? Now we'll take some general check-ins. Come with your call sign, twice and slow, mobiles, in and outs, general, whatever you got. QR's in.
Kilo Charlie 3, Foxtrot Golf Delta. Kilo Charlie 3, Foxtrot Golf Delta. Uniform Kilo Pete, Huntsville, Alabama.
This is November 8, Juliet November, N8 MJN in the mobile. I'll be in and out today. 73.
B3 VPK, KB3 VP.
This is 9Y4DX. 9 Yacht before Delta X-ray, third trip.
Let me grab a hold of it there. I'm sure we missed a few. We got Bertrand, 9Y4DX, Trinidad and Tobago. We got KB3 VPK, Mary, Easton, PA. KD2JPP, Bob, Gallatin, Tennessee. Ah, you're back, Bob. 98MJN, In and Out, Mobile, Marson, Sterling Heights, Michigan. Have a great evening there, Marson. And KE2IEH, Easton, East Terrace, New York, and KC3FGD Ray, Elizabethtown, PA. There was one LUK, something like that, maybe.
AR4ICA. AR4ICA, Randy, Boynton Beach.
That'll work. We got KR4ICA, Randy, Royal Palm Beach, Florida. N7FGP, Scott, Jamestown, New York. These are the text check-ins that'll follow. K2AP, Joe, East New York. N2ZWR, Dan, Radford, Virginia. N5RTC, Terry, one of our team members here, Austin, Texas. And KI5PMI, Bill Hobbs, New Mexico. K7FPS, Fred, Reno, Nevada. KJ5MEL, Jose, Austin, Texas. W2RBC, Randy, one of our team members, West Seneca, New York. WA2UU, Joel, Buffalo, New York. And the rest I said. Let me go to the top of the list here. Mr. Ray, Elizabethtown, PA, KC3FGD. Good evening, Ray. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? Over.
Hey, good evening, Roger, everyone on the net. I must admit, I'm very relaxed at doing that. No, I only do it when I find it necessary to fix something, so then I get into them. Other than that, I do not read them. Hey, everyone, have a great evening. Back to net control.
Thanks for joining us, Ray. You have a wonderful evening. Ethan, East Terrace, New York, KE2IEH. Good evening, Ethan.
Good evening. I do sometimes if I'm having trouble, but my dad, KE2IEG, doesn't. I think he likes it. He sometimes, I swear I'll catch him reading them for fun, but back to net control, KE2IEH.
Thanks for joining us, Ethan. Have a good evening. And we got Bob back, Gallatin, Tennessee, KD2JPP. Good evening, Bob.
Hey, good evening, Roger. Please step away for 1 second. You never know what you miss. But as far as the question, yes, I do read the manuals, and I do also go to YouTube. But for the answer to the question, yes, I do. So I can find out all the functions of that nice, expensive piece of transport. We'll send it back to you, Roger.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't like you, Bob. Glad that you came back and got in there. And yeah, I got a touch screen, and I accidentally touched something one time, and off to the manual I had to go for a while till I figured out what I touched. And let's go to Mary, Easton, PA, KB3VPK. Good evening, Mary.
Good evening, everyone on the net. Yes, I made all the manuals for sure. Let me get everything I need to know about the radios or equipment I get. I always read everything. And back to you, KB3VP.
Thanks, Mary. Have a good evening. Bertrand, my buddy from Trinidad and Tobago, 9Y4DX. Good evening, Bertrand. And do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment?
pleasant evening to Net Control, Roger, KO4QMM. This is Y4 Delta X-ray, Bertrand, and my location, Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Well, let me extend a pleasant evening as well to all of the stations this evening on the Tech Net, this Tuesday, the 19th of May. Hope everyone is doing well and keeping warm. Well, Roger, yes, I read my Bible. And would you believe I bought a new vehicle? And I'm still reading the manual because there are some things in these new vehicles, especially the hybrid. I bought a hybrid vehicle. And I'm still trying to catch up. So, yes, household stuff, radio, and others. So that's it from me. Back to you, Net Control, KO4QMS. This is 9Y4. Yes.
Thanks for joining us, as always, Bertrand. And I've made a couple contacts to Trinidad and Tobago lately on HF. So propagations have been pretty decent for me for there. Joel, Buffalo, New York, WA2UUS. Thanks for waiting in there, Joel. And do you read instruction manuals for your equipment? Over. Well, maybe he didn't wait. WA2UUS. You there, Joel? Yeah, it's another one that's not quite like him. Maybe we'll hear back from him. Randy, my buddy in West Seneca, New York, W2RBC, just happens to be camping right now. Good evening, Randy.
All W2RBC.
Yeah, you're right about that. You got to check 2 or 3 of them out just to get the right answer. Thanks for joining us, Randy. And if anybody else just kind of joined in wondering what this is, you're listening to the East Coast Reflector Tuesday Night Tech Net. Check out eastcoastreflector.com. You'll see what it's all about. Magazine, a lot of different nets, have a Zoom room to put a face with the call sign, and a lot of fun people here. And let's move on to Jose, Austin, Texas, KJ5MEL. Good evening, Jose. And do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? Are you there, Mr. Jose? Son of a gun, we lost another one. All right, how about Fred, Reno, Nevada, K7FPS. You there, Fred?
You betcha, Roger. Thank you, Roger, Vicky, Dick, and everyone on the net. Yes, I'm a firm believer in RTFM, and all of my ham radio manuals and receipts are in a 3-inch notebook and labeled appropriately with tabs. So, yes, K7FPS, back to you, Roger.
Well, Fred, you got me beat by a long shot. Thanks for joining us this evening, and you sound good. Bill Hobbs, New Mexico, KI5PMI. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Roger, and everybody on the net. Yes, I read those manuals, and it drives my wife absolutely crazy, so I get enjoyment out of that, too. Hope everybody has a good evening. KI5PMI, back to net.
Another yes on the list from Miss Vicky. Thanks for joining us. And we got another team member here, Terry from Austin, Texas, and 5RTC. He does a lot for the W2ECR club here. Good evening, Terry.
Good evening, Roger. Thanks to Vicky for logging and Dick for his contributions tonight early on. I will grudgingly read a manual as a last resort. Back to net control. Thanks again, Roger. Love you. Mean it. N5RTC.
Thanks, Terry. Love you too, man. Have a good evening there. And a lot of good people here at the W2ECI. I just can't say that enough. They take care of all the nodes and all that stuff. I have no clue about that stuff. I just like to get on here and do my net controlling. That's it. I'm one of the few that does that. The others all kind of know a little bit more back behind the stage. Thanks again. This is KO4QMM. Let's move on to Dan, Radford, Virginia, NCWR. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening to everybody on the net tonight. Yes, I do. I start with the basics to get me started, especially when it comes to programming, and then I go back as needed for a deeper dive. Back to net control.
Another yes on the list. Thanks for joining us, Dan. And Joe, East Lip, New York, K2AP. Always look forward to talking to you on the 20-meter net. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening, Roger, and good evening, Vicky and Dick, everybody on the net. Yes, I do read the manuals, and interesting story about that. Somebody on the Morning Brew this morning talked about a 144 something frequency, which I wrote down for Simplex for a Long Island group that's on Simplex. So I wrote it down. I have to look up the manual on my 2-meter radio in terms of how to put the frequency into memory. So I always read the manual and then try to do it, because sometimes it just saves me a lot of time. So Roger, looking forward to speaking to you on Thursday morning. 73, everybody. K2AP, back to net.
And thank you, Joe. And yeah, anybody's welcome to join us on Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. 14.317. Good time to check out your antennas, see if they're working. I usually hear you or somebody else, and we have a good time in the Zoom room. Let's go to Scott, another one of our team members here, Jamestown, New York, N7FGP. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening, Roger, and everyone on the net tonight. I read the manual after I play around with it for a little bit, and can't figure it out on my own. But I usually end up reading parts of it. Back to you.
When a lot of people hit the split frequency, that's when they go to the manual. Thanks, Scott, for joining us. Have a good evening. Randy, Royal Palm Beach, Florida, KR4ICA. Good evening, Randy. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment?
Good evening, Roger and Vicky and Dick, everybody out there on the net. I look at the manual after I've tried to figure everything out on my own. So when I run into a problem, then I go to the manual and investigate further, as long as I don't do anything that's going to put the radio at risk. I also like to download the manual onto my phone. That way, when I'm out and about, if I come up with a question, I've always got that handy. So I've always found that helpful. a great big veteran shout out to all the great men and women in the service. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it. Back to net control.
I agree with everything you said there, Randy. Thanks for joining us, and that was a good tip. I did the same thing with my FT891 for my mobile, my truck. I downloaded at least the main things that I needed to be able to get to on it, and it helps a lot. Thanks again. Mike, K6AAN, Valley Springs, California. Do you need an instruction manual for your equipment?
Well, good evening, Roger, everybody on the net. I'm not a manual reader. I'm the same as a lot of these guys. If we find something we can't do, we finally go to the manual. And you're absolutely right about that split frequency. I forget how to do that every time. I don't use it enough, so gotta go to the manual and get that one for sure. So back to you. This is K6AAN.
Thanks for joining us, Mike. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've hit split frequency. You always got to remember to put it back before you do. You get all excited, put your call into QRZ and forget to go back to split. Then the next time you're calling somebody, it's not them. You're somewhere else. And it's usually kind of funny. It may be. Thanks again. All right, we're at the bottom of that list again. This is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. You're listening to Tuesday Night Tech Net. We're taking general check-ins that come in to answer the question in the evening. Anybody, anywhere. Cover your call sign twice and slow.
Quebec 4, Romeo, Whiskey, November, Huntsville, Alabama, Kevin. Kilo, Quebec 4, Romeo, Whiskey, November, Huntsville, Alabama. The name is Kevin.
Victor Echo 3, India, Quebec Uniform, V3IQU, Reg in Brampton.
N2BH. Echo 8, Bravo Zulu Mike. Kilo Romeo 4, Charlie Golf. Kilo Romeo 4, Charlie Golf. W4FWN, Whiskey 4 Foxtrot, Whiskey November.
Little list there. There was one VE8 B something. Could you come back? I think Vicky got it. Bottom up, W4FWN Dan, Sanford, Florida. KR4CCM Mary, South Chesterfield, Virginia. W2AJR Andy, Cheektowaga, New York. Again, VE3BLM Barry, Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. And N2BH Bill, one of our team members, Palmar, New York. VE3IQU, Reg, Brampton, Ontario, Canada. N2ZGN, Francis, Peru, New York. KQ4RWN, Kevin, Huntsville, Alabama. Top of the list, 9-4C, Dexter, San Juan, Trinidad, and Tobago. Good evening, Dexter, and do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? Over.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Yep, I do read the manual for my equipment. That's a good way to get around learning features on the equipment. And I do consult the University of YouTube also for stuff that's not clear to me.
Thanks for joining us this evening, Dexter. And yeah, I too have used YouTube for certain things on it. It's a nice radio, and you got to do it. Thanks for joining us. Kevin, Huntsville, Alabama, KQ4RWN. Good evening, Kevin.
Control and direct to the net. I usually try to figure everything out myself, like everybody else, trial and error, and then if I can't get it worked out or whatever, I just go to the manual and read through it, or once I get everything set up the way I think it's supposed to be set up, I'll go back and read the manual.
Right? That's where the old highlighter comes in handy. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. Have a great evening. Francis, Peru, New York, N2ZGN. Good evening, Francis. N2ZGN, you there? Moving on. Reg, Brampton, Ontario, Canada, VE3IQU. Good evening, Reg.
And a very good evening, Roger, and everybody else out around the net tonight, including Dick there, if you're listening. Hope things are well by everybody. And the weather has certainly improved the last couple of days, but I guess from what I see on the news broadcast, that for some less exciting weather the next few days. Anyhow, things are good here. Just enjoying life as much as we possibly can. So I'll toss it back to you, and hope everyone has a great week ahead. From V3IQU.
Thanks for joining us, Reg. We always appreciate it. And I don't see Dick in the Zoom room. He must have went to the concession stand to get some popcorn. Bill, Palmyra, New York, N2BH. Good evening, Bill. You read them instruction manuals for your equipment. Over.
Well, good evening, Roger, Vicky, Dick, everybody. Like most people, when I can't figure something out, then I get the N2BH.
Thanks for getting in there this evening, Bill. Have a good evening. Barry, Petersboro, Ontario, Canada, VE3BLM. Good evening, Barry.
Sorry to butt in, Barry, but I forgot to tell you the answer to the question. And yes, I do repeat. I do read the manuals that come with my equipment. So over to you there, Barry, V3IQU.
Thanks for joining us. Which was, all right. VE3BLM, Barry, you there? All right, that's what I thought. Andy, Cheektowaga, New York, W2AJR. Good evening, Andy. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment?
Good evening, Roger. Good evening, everybody on the net. The order of operation is trial and error, then YouTube University, then local, then the manual as the last resort. Thank you, Roger. Everybody have a great week. 7-3.
You crossed them all off there, Andy. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Kevin, Danbury, North Carolina, KQ4CCM. Good evening, Kevin. Was it KR4CCG, Jim, Longwood, Florida? No. Is there anybody that had a call sign like that? KR4CC something or another? W4FWN, Dan, Sanford, Florida. You there, Dan?
Well, good evening, Roger, and everyone else on the net. This is W4FWN. Yeah, my normal procedure is to watch as many YouTube videos as I can before I lay my hands on the equipment or before I even get it or in my choosing process of whether I'm going to get it or not. But once I get it in-house, then yes, I read the manual. So anyway, it's kind of multifaceted. And because it has so many sub-menus in the newer equipment, you have to go to the manual for some things. Back to net control, this is W4FWN. Thanks a lot, Roger.
Oh yeah, it took me quite a while to figure out the recording too, to get that just right to where I could call CQ, you know, whatever band it is. And it's nice, you can take a break, drink some water, and somebody will come back. Thanks, Dan, for joining us. You were at the bottom of that list, and we got 10 minutes here left. Anybody else would like to get in, answer our question of the evening? This is KO4QMM Roger, and you're listening to the Tuesday Night Tech Net with the East Coast Reflector. Cover your call sign you'd like to join us.
November 6th, Papa.
WGTM, Whiskey Baker 3 Golf Tango Mike. W1HAC, that is Whiskey 1, Hotel Alpha Charlie.
5 Mike Oscar Whiskey, Roger. Checking in, K5 MOW.
KG4GOQ, KG4GOQ. Bravo Zulu Mike.
That last one there, would you come back with your call sign? All we got, I think, was the suffix.
Oh, that's a wait. Bravo Mike.
I should know better. Give you a couple seconds and she figures it out. KE8BZM Bill, Detroit, Michigan. KG4GOQ Paul, Lake Worth, Florida. K5MOW Roger, Alvin, Texas. W1HAC Eric, St. Mary's, Georgia. WB3GTM Mike, Westford, Vermont. Top of the list, Chris, Hinesville, Maryland. N6 PPP. Good evening, Chris. Do you need do you read instruction manuals for your equipment? Over.
Good evening, everybody. I generally do not. I do similar to the other gentleman. I watch some. Did I cut out there? Okay, I guess I'm back. I watch a ton of YouTube videos, but my trick is questions that'll help me.
All right, Chris got a little stuck in the muck there. Let's move on to Mike, Westford, Vermont, WB3GTM. Good evening, Mike. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment? Over.
Good evening, Roger, and good evening, everybody on the net. Good to hear you, Roger. Sounding good. I'm trying something new here. I'm networking into a little ICOM 705 connected to a Disco Net QRP power, so I hope it's working okay. Yes, I do read the manuals. It's not like the 70s and 80s television sets or CB radio or something. You know, everything's more complicated. And you get these new radios because of some of these extreme features that they got, you know, like networking and tons of memories and all that kind of stuff. And so yes, I do use YouTube and read the manuals, usually the PDF. Hey, thank you very much, and that's 73. Back to you. This is WB3GTM 73.
Well, Mike, I don't know if you're watching a monster movie or something in the background or something. Got a few noises there. But I did get everything you said. We got your answer, yes. And have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Eric, St. Mary's, Georgia, W1HAC. Good evening, Eric.
Good evening to all, and I do both. Like the saying says, when all else fails, follow the instructions. So I do look at the manuals, but I also go to YouTube because it's just much quicker. There are so many people that have experienced it before me. Additionally, I inherited a lot of ham radio equipment that is probably 50 and 60 years old, and the manuals are just incredibly helpful, and they have schematics and fuse sizes and tube sizes and bulb sizes and everything else you would want if you have the intellect to sort through it all. And I am starting to develop it, but I'm not what you would call a ham fan. So at the end of the day, I try YouTube first, but if that doesn't work, I go to the instructions. Out.
Right on, Eric. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us. Roger, Alvin, Texas. MOW. Good evening, Roger. Do you read the instruction manuals for your equipment?
Good morning. Good evening to everyone on the net. This is Roger K5MOW. And yes, I do. Here's what I'll do first. I'll first go to YouTube, then I go to the manual. But I usually do both. I want to learn the radio from inside to the outside. Back to net control.
Yes, you are correct. It matters what it is. And sometimes the manual just doesn't get enough input. You go to YouTube, find the right person, and happy days. Thanks, Roger. Have a great evening. Paul, Lake Worth, Florida, KG4GOQ. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Roger, and good evening to the crew. KG4GOQ in Palm Springs, Florida. I like the challenge. I like to not bother touching the manual or looking at it, but trying to figure it out first. And then if all else fails, then I'll do the manual. But I like the challenge.
Challenge it is, Paul. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening. Bill, bottom of the list again. Detroit, Michigan, KE8BZM. Good evening, Bill. Do you read the instruction manual for your equipment? Over.
Bill, the KE8 Yes, I do read my manual whenever possible and in applicable situations that I need to find the function. Or, you know,
The time is 11 p.m. All right, Bill, we got you down for a yes, and you have a wonderful evening, too. And that's it. We're getting down to the last lap here. Checker flag is not far away. Anybody would like to come in and answer the question of the evening, come with your call sign.
K-A-8-B-Y-U. K-A-8-B-Y-U.
Alpha Echo 5 X-Ray Juliet. Alpha Echo 5 X-Ray Juliet.
KR4 HBQ, Kilo Romeo 4, Hotel Bravo, Quebec.
Kilo 5, Yankee November Unicorn, K5, YME.
All right, I had the ID there. We got K5YNU, Florin, Conroe, Texas, KR4 HBQ, Neil, Durham, New York, New York, North Carolina, AE5XJ, Aaron Spring, Texas, K8BYU, Roy. Are you there, Roy?
Oh, yeah, Roger, I'm here. I swear this is a bloody conspiracy here the last couple days, where somebody either calls me on the dang phone or comes knocking on my door when it's net time. I mean, this is getting ridiculous with some of these people here in this building. As to the question, yes, I always read the manual. In fact, I have a stack that's almost a foot high of manuals for every single radio I have in that. Back to you, K-A-8-B-Y-U.
Well, thanks for coming back, Roy. The few people that did miss out kind of came back. So that counts right there for something. You have a wonderful evening, my friend. KA8BYU, also known as Roy. Let's move on to Aaron, Spring, Texas, AE5XJ. Aaron, you there?
Roger that. I'm here, and yes, I believe in using the manual, and I believe that they print them for our use, and that way I don't have to rely on how someone else does something for me to figure it out. But I do, when I can, I will go and look and see who else has had the similar issue or problem. It's been helpful. But the thing that I learned a long time ago was they published the manuals on how to fix things, put things together, and take them apart for a reason. And before I start down that road, you can believe I'm going to read a manual. Thanks for letting me in, fellas. I hope you all have a good night, and we're going to be clear on the final from net and back to net, AE5XJ.
Thanks for joining us this evening, Aaron, and we got you down for a yes. Neil, Durham, North Carolina, KR4HBQ. Good evening, Neil. Do you read instruction manuals before you or for your equipment?
Evening all from Bull Durham. I have to say no. That's what God created YouTube and AI for. Thank you very much. Back to net. KR4HBQ.
All right, Neil. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening. And last on the list again, K5YNU, Florence, Conroe, Texas. Good evening, Florence.
Good evening, Roger, Vicky, Dick, everyone on the net. I want to start by apologizing for my home notes earlier. It started keying out by itself. I don't know what's going
Audio
on there,
level
but,
is low.
yes, I do read the manuals, not entirely, but the basics, just to get familiar with the equipment before I do any big mistakes that, has costly many times. Back to the net control. Everyone have a blessed evening. K5YNU.
You have a good evening too there, Florin, and thanks for joining us this evening. Well, I guess that's it. We've kind of hit the checker flag here on another Tuesday night Tech Net evening. Had a good evening, and on behalf of Vicky, KABKY, Dick, WB2JPQ, Kevin, VE3BZ, and Charles, KC6UFM. And that was another great presentation from him tonight. Check out Wednesday, tomorrow evening, 8 p.m., open mic night. They have a lot of fun there. Usually have a good question. Friday night, 8 p.m., the Youth Net. Come in, support the Youth Net. This is KO4QMM. I will be turning the reflector back to normal amateur use. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. 7-3!